Alright, this is Jeff again here, 2415 Southwest Shoals Ferry Road, Portland. The second half of the video here. So we just came from off the roof. This is the back of the home here as you face the front of the house from the road. So there is a road cone. I wish this had been marked with a flag or something, but anyway, there's another cone right there that sits down into a crater in the ground. That cone right there lines up perfectly with where the root is. If you follow that in a straight line back towards the rear of the home, you'll find my paint marking there about 2 feet outside the back of the house. All right, zeroed out, water's running again. Off we go here. And it's a good thing. I'm hoping this thing remains cast iron all the way out and or is updated. What you would typically have in this era, this is a very rare scenario to have this much cast iron. Most homes would switch over to concrete pipe 5 feet outside the house. And I promise you, it would be a very, very different looking sewer line if that were the case. It would be just blasted with roots at this point. Especially being the line as it comes out the back is only 1 foot 2 inches deep. It's incredibly shallow. And that shallow depth is nice for when you have to do repairs. Not so great when you're trying to keep your sewer line away from roots though. Cast iron generally resists root intrusion, honestly better than even modern day plastic pipe. It's incredibly strong when it's put together right. There's the main right there. Beautiful. That's what I was hoping we'd have here. The line has fabulous slope and grade, and this is a sewer line that it would behoove you. This is really only if you're interested at some point, if you're here long enough to see the line fully updated anyway. To do a trenchless style repair, and this line is set up pretty nicely to do it, especially with this clean out access it has. It behooves you to keep an eye on it. I would rescope it about every 2 years. We'll see how everything's looking as we come back in, but so far this cast iron's looking pretty good here. Anyway, you want to keep an eye on things. Eventually everything wears out. You want to start watching for signs the line is, the flow line in cast iron is usually what wears out over time. It eventually rots through. And or the pipe joints can give out. So if you start to see any changes that are significant, things start opening up to the ground, that's when you want to look into that prospect. You could dig it up, do whatever you want to, but that's a way you could do this probably entirely trenchlessly without even digging. It usually saves money too. The other advantage in this scenario is the line undoubtedly is probably going past trees. I'm going to go locate, but when you start digging up a sewer line right next to root balls of trees, you're usually going to kill those trees off. So it prevents you from having to, destroy foliage you may like. It also puts an added layer in there to help prevent root intrusions in the future, because now you have a cast iron pipe and a liner inside of it at that point that has basically no pipe joints in it. We're going to go turn the water off here, let the pipe drain off, and we're going to go locate the camera. Alrighty, we're going to pull the camera back in a little ways and try again. The line's going off into the woods where I just can't really locate within reason, not with the time that I've got to do this. So I'll pull back in about halfway. That'll tell us the direction the line's headed off. Anytime you have a line like this in this part of town or anywhere where the line goes off into the woods, doesn't go out to a road, always going to recommend you keep your eyes peeled with your title documents, look for easement records. Gunk my darn camera lens up here. A little bit of schmaltz on the right side there. There's a little bit of gunk there. I want to take a close look at that. It's at a pipe joint. If you look at that, it's at the top right hand corner of the screen right now. There's kind of a cobweb sticking off of it. That what caught my eye was the fact that there was a joint there and that substance. It's possible, I'll notate it on the report, at about 53 feet you have a possible compromised joint. That may be dirt. It could also easily be some kind of debris that's gone down the line. Lots of stuff. When you look at that stuff there and follow it back, in fact, I'll see if I can get another shot of it here. If you follow that brown substance, it does not go all the way back into the joint. It's sitting on the surface of the pipe. typically speaking, when dirt is slowly conveying through a joint, it's going to be continuous. That dirt will go all the way back into the joint, typically speaking. It's a hard one to say, as it is not affecting functionality. There's no roots coming through it. The stringy stuff there are just cobwebs. That's not one I'm going to jump straight to repairs. Now this line's cool. I mean, it's a very rare scenario that your line is essentially just under dirt, other than the pipe under the floor of the home anyway. But right there was right at the tree line. So the line, I'll show it with the camera, it'll be easier. So a similar thing here. You've got a little bit of substance at that joint. Again, very difficult to confirm what it is exactly. It's possible it's dirt. And lines that are this age, the roots are a little bit different story because of the ability for roots to aggressively grow. And I don't, especially with this clean out being here, I'm a little suspicious that the line, it's possible that they've been cleaning the line with that, with this access point. I don't know what the natural state of those roots are. Some roots stay rinky-dink and tiny. Some grow back rather quickly and large, especially when the home is being lived in. When a house is vacant, sewage isn't going to the line, roots can atrophy and retract and give you kind of a false appearance. So that's why I'm recommending the repairs on the roots there, especially where they're positioned. If they were 150 feet out from the home and that's all that you had, I'd probably still recommend a repair, but I would be sounding very different about my concern about it causing a problem. Otherwise, lines this age, I really don't like to see them done in parts and pieces. If you're going to do any fixing on them, you just do the entire thing. You often are going to end up with a bad result, and something's going to settle where they did a spot repair or something like that. It's just not worth messing with unless the issue is causing legitimate problems. So got a few joints throughout the line. I'll notate that on the report. It's subtle, there's not enough there, and there's no settling associated with any of those joints either. That's the other thing. If at every one of the spots where there was brown substance, the joint had dropped a quarter or a half inch, where I can see hydro erosions taking place, that's something that would confirm what that substance is. Right now, nothing's settled. So, and this is a line that if you were to, for instance, do an epoxy liner on it, you'd get a beautiful result out of it. It would look great. The line has perfect slope and grade. So anyway, I'll try and show this with the camera here. So anyway, the line comes out again. It's about 15 feet in from this back left corner of the home. Right now I'm facing the street. That's the back left corner. The line comes out over here, jaunts out to that, right about where that, approximately where the cone is. It's just before that. Turns, comes to this point. It continues straight towards the property line, towards the left side property line for just a moment, and then it turns at an angle. It runs off at about a 45-degree angle away from this clean out, all said and done, off into the woods. You know, and just guesstimating there, that the line does a little bit of a nosedive right at the end. That's probably the line nosediving right around where the property line, where the property drops off over there. So your main is just on that, somewhere right around that, where the property drops off over there. Anyhow, as we sit here today, even with the roots in the line, we have good flow to the main lateral. I do recommend a repair on that to keep the line functioning that way, obviously, and I do recommend rescoping afterwards to check the work. And you want to do that when the trench is closed, not when it's open. And if you do an epoxy liner at some point, rescope that too. You always want to rescope and check the work. Aside from that, there's a few question marks at a couple pipe joints there, which we talked about. None of them are affecting functionality. So no repairs at this point. I can't even confirm what it is exactly. So anyhow, but I would keep an eye on the line. I'd rescope periodically in the event, like I was talking about earlier. The joints sometimes wear out first, sometimes it's the bottom of the flow line. If we start seeing any areas of the line that start to settle progressively, that's when you want to look into the prospect of lining this thing. You know, and the line's not going to last forever, given the age that it is. You know, if you're here for a while, this is a forever home. I would wager you're probably going to want to be looking into the prospect of that. You know, it could be as soon as 3 to 5 years from now. Realistically, it could go 10. It's really hard to predict. It's impossible, honestly. It hugely depends on the environment around you, trees, things like that, and also the amount of usage on the line. Cast iron wears out faster the more it's used. So there's a lot of things that play into that. Anyway, that's why I just rescope periodically rather than try and predict the future for you, which I can't do. You know, it could be 3 to 5, it could be 7 years, it could be 10. Rescope it about every 1 to 2 years to monitor the condition of the line. That way you can pick and choose the right time to do your update on the sewer line. As we sit here today, the line is functioning properly at this time. Again, do recommend the repair there at the roots to correct that. Make sure the line stays that way here going off into the future.